This is Ted Hicks from Late Night Parents. Ways to follow the show, latenightparents.com. Happy to join you once again. Have a kind of best of interview that I did a while back with Mr. David Dean of the program manager of the setvets.org. It's the organization that provides veterans an opportunity in the commercial film production industry. Hang on one sec. And want to just real briefly set that it's based in Southern California and was formed to introduce the veterans to career opportunities in commercial film production industry. Both the vets and the industry stand to gain tremendous benefits from this alliance. Troops returning from deployment represent a broad cross-section of America. Every ethnicity, religion, gender, sexual orientation, and political affiliation, and they form a labor force that is well-trained, highly skilled, and to a great extent untapped. While the U.S. jobless rate is, it's pretty high, among those returning are veterans there, which is over 10% unemployment rate. Returning vets can face many challenges. Unemployment should not be one of them. So many of the men and women who have served in our armed forces have a difficulty with finding fulfilling careers once they've been discharged from active duty. These veterans represent a broad cross-section of America and constitute a labor force that, as I mentioned before, well-trained, highly skilled, and in many, many ways untapped. So whether as a grip or a truck driver, or a prop master, a cameraman, a writer or director, these careers are awaiting veterans that take advantage of their military training. Set Vets is dedicated to providing access to these career paths. The first step is an introduction to the film production community. The most common entry-level position is production assistant, which is a PA. The Set Vets orientation is a 3-day workshop focusing on PA training. However, various crews, positions, and union requirements are explained to all candidates. They make it very clear that that is only the first step. Had a discussion with Mr. David Dean. I will go into it. I will take myself off the screen. We had a very, very, very fun conversation, and we talked about the program. So I'll leave it here. I'll bring this picture on the screen. Here is let me get this going the right way. Did this with myself, Dr. Michelle, Rich Valdez, and of course, David Dean. I'll bring up the other items and we'll get into it. We had that evening what was it? It was like one promo I had to read on Fuzuki. So we'll get into it right now. Hope you guys enjoy it. Hope you guys are enjoying your day. Here we go. Our discussion on Late Night Parents with Mr. David Dean. And this conversation is supported by Rich Valdez, Dr. Michelle Reed, and yours truly, Ted Hicks. To car, to train, to railroad, back to train.
How many steps do you actually walk, though? Seriously. No, not today. I'm talking about it in general with work, commuting to work.
About 5,000.
Just during the course of the day normally? The entire work day?
Not including exercise. You're just talking about just to and from.
You're exercising?
Yes.
Since when?
Just right there again.
Oh, you didn't know.
When did you start?
It's been ongoing.
I'm staying
Since
out.
April? Since we did the fitness log?
Since we did the fitness log. Rich is still checking. He's still checking.
I'm going to stay out of it.
We do. So,
this over 10,000 today.
Over 10,000.
Today's not a work day.
And I've done about
6 to 7,000 a work day.
Okay.
Oh, okay. But how much in regards to to and
Just
from.
the walk back and forth. It's hard to say because it's only 4 city blocks from train station to office, and from car to train, it's like 100 steps.
See, you just burst his bubble. Look at
For
that.
me.
Stop.
For me.
For you. Because
Right.
you're taking shortcuts and everything else like that.
I park, I walk down 2 flights of stairs, I walk up 1 flight of stairs, I'm at the train.
Our good friends at Shizuku, the pain relieving reflexology mat, it gives you pain relief on an overall pressure. Here's how Shizuku can help you step into relief. Over 2,800 reflexology points help temporary relief pain associated with plantar fasciitis, heels, arches, and foot tingling. Massages your heel, arch, pad, and toes. Sends pain relieving signals while massaging.
Nice.
For all other information, go to our friends at futzuk.com.
So I have a question. Did you get a sample, Matt?
I did. And that's why I said I forgot it. Because I was supposed to bring it in. So I can do this quick, you know what, and then show it to you guys, and then you guys can put your feet on it and stuff like that. But I left my phone. I couldn't find my phone. I couldn't do this, and I kind of got out of whack. So, along with that,
no Futsuki. That's all there is to it.
That means he's gonna keep it.
That's okay. He deserves it. I think he's got the biggest feet out of all of us, so that's okay.
You know. So
see,
with
I didn't say anything.
I'm not. That's not
okay.
That's not a bad thing.
No, it's not a bad thing. You know. But along with that, this is Late Night Parents with Dr. Michelle, Richie V. I'm Ted, and we have a special in-studio guest, Mr. David Dean. He's in the building. Before Rich he does his monologue, I want to tell you, David, Rich told me about you a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
I wanted to get you on the show a couple of years ago. Do you remember?
Yeah.
It was around about 2015.
Wow.
And Rich said, you know what? You're just too busy. So I understand that with everything. So it's a blessing that you are here.
Well, thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.
Wonderful.
It's great to be here.
I'm happy about it too. He's all over the world. So,
yes.
We just got lucky here. His sister's all over the world now, so he's got to cover.
I'm watching Mom.
Okay.
Mom sitting.
Yeah.
Okay.
Nothing wrong with that.
Not at all.
Yeah, so we've known each other for, I guess we technically met when we were about 3 and started hanging out close when we were about 12.
Oh.
So this is my brother.
Ever since.
All right.
Yeah. So yes, I have a monologue here because I have to give him the proper introduction.
Oh boy.
Because he's done so much.
Nothing wrong with that.
No. So if you've watched TV at all over the last 30 years, you've seen Dave's work. From the heyday of music videos to the present, working directly with artists like Janet Jackson, Jennifer Lopez, Snoop Dogg, Usher, just to name a few. Major commercial projects like the Apple and Mac PC campaign, the Big Five Gum campaign, the Allstate Insurance campaign, every major automotive manufacturer. He's a Directors Guild of America award winner. He's also one of the most respected first assistant directors in Hollywood. And he's now developing his own project, which he's called Set Vets. And the purpose of this project is to assist veterans in learning about and gaining employment in the entertainment production industry. So, David, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you. Nice introduction. I appreciate it.
Yeah, all deserved, well deserved, and it's all true.
Mostly true.
Yeah. I left out a few things. So I know some of it, but again, you've been in the business for like 30 years now.
Yeah.
So tell our listeners and our co-hosts here how you got started.
Well, it's funny, I'm one of the rare people you'll find in the film industry that I, as a child, kind of identified that's what I wanted to do for a living. I didn't know exactly what, but I knew I wanted to work in Hollywood, TV, and film production. And I found my way into it when I was about in my early 20s, worked my way from pretty much the very bottom to what I'm doing now. And during all the ensuing years, there are people you run into, and you can just see a look in their eye. People always come to you on the street when you're on a film set, and they say, "Oh man, I always wanted to do that. Oh, how can I get into it?" And you can almost look at them and see, no, you don't. You could 14, 15, 16-hour days, standing out in the rain under a bridge someplace,
Right.
But sometimes when people say it, you look at them and they really do want it. And 2007, I was doing a Army campaign down at Fort Hood, Texas. And I have no military experience myself. But the film community for decades has pretty much modeled film production methods and methodologies from the military. It's the same basic idea. You take a group of 150 people or 200 people or 60 people or whatever it happens to be. You move into a place, you establish a perimeter, you set up a base camp, you get what you have to get done, you pack it up and you get out of there. You try and leave it the way you found it, So during this time down at Fort Hood, I was introduced by the colonel who was sort of overseeing our production. He brought this guy to me, a staff sergeant. He said, "This is Staff Sergeant Dameron. He's going to be your liaison for the time that you're here. Anything that you need, you want the guys to do something, you tell him, he'll translate it to military speak and he'll get it done." Okay, great. Dameron and I started talking, and every time he'd finish a sentence, he'd say, if I asked him a question, he'd say, "Yes, sir. Yes, sir. No, sir. Yes, sir." And I'm like, dude, you got to cut out the sirs, And he's like, "You're not in a uniform, but I can tell you're a captain." I was like, okay. And he would walk up to me and he would say, like, "You treat your privates a lot better than I treat mine." I was like, the similarities in the structure of a film crew and the structure of a military organization are very, very similar. Right. Minus, the weaponry or whatever, but it's the very similar thing. We have departments and everything else. So by the time I finished my 7 days working with these guys, I was like, they were getting ready to go to Afghanistan. This was 2007. These guys were gearing up to go to Afghanistan. And I said to him, I said, "When you guys get back, man, if you want to get into this thing, call me, because you could do this in your sleep." Wow. He's like, yeah, absolutely. So we exchanged emails and whatnot. I emailed him 2 or 3 times over the next couple of months, never heard back from him, but I figured the guy is busy, right? He's taking his squad to a foreign country into theater. And about 7 years later, well, before I get to 7 years later, during that time, we started seeing everything that was happening with the current recession, with the recession that was 2007, 8, 9. Right. Then a lot of the news reports on veterans coming home and not being able to find adequate work. Right. And then the VA having issues with the VA hospitals. And I was just really kind of incensed, because during my time at Fort Hood, man, I saw every single kind of person you could imagine. I saw women, men, Asian, white, Jewish, whatever, Latino, people of every color, stripe, creed, ethnicity, whatever, doing every kind of job you can imagine. Right. Majors who were like women that were 5 feet tall, and guys walking by snapping to a salute. So I just sort of figured I should start a program, because I don't know much, but I know film. I know how to make a film. I know a film set. These guys could come do this in their sleep. I should make a program. And there's been programs for other groups to help other groups assist to diversify the film industry. I was like, I should do it for these guys too, So 7 years later, I get an email, and it's from the sergeant. And he's like, "I'm back." I'm like, "Oh, 7 years later, How you been? How you been?
Yeah, that's right. And he was keeping in contact.
Yeah, he was. I heard from him the other day. He was like, "I'm back," and he's like, "Give me a call to get a chance." So I gave him a call. We got on the phone, and he just said, "Look, working on those commercials with you guys was the proudest my guys ever were, man. They were celebrities in Afghanistan, right? Because the commercials got a lot of airtime. And they were like, man, they would walk across the base and people would call them Hollywood, And I knew a couple of his guys, because we hung out a little bit when we were in Texas. And I'm like, "Oh, how's Kunto, or how's so-and-so?" And some of them was like, "Yeah, he's not doing too well. He can't find work." And one guy, he said to me, "Yeah, he didn't come home."
Wow.
And it just became real for me in a way that I know that's a lot of people dealt with that over and over and over again, but it just made it real for me in a way that I just had never experienced. So I told him about the idea for the project, and he was like, "Yeah, you should do it. You should do it. I'll help you. I'll do whatever I can to help you." And I just went to different production companies in Hollywood, and I found a guy at the VA in LA whose job was to help the guys find employment, right? Unemployment office. And I got this guy to set up interviews with me with people that he thought would be adequate candidates, good candidates. And we interviewed 30 people to fill a class of 10. I just wanted to do a class of 10 to start off. And we got about 8 guys, and we interviewed them, and then we did a 3-day training course with them where we basically, it's not teaching them hardly anything. It's just a translation.
Okay.
It's just from one language to another, and then I bring them on my jobs to start, and then I sort of feed them out to other ADs and other production companies and they love it. They love it. And the hard part is that I have to tell them, you might have been a sergeant, you might have been a corporal, you might have been whatever, but you're starting off back at the bottom.
You're a private.
This again. You're a private again. And are you willing to do that?
Right.
Because the thing is, I'm bringing you in the entry-level position of a production assistant.
Right.
And that's a gopher, essentially. There's no special skill set for it. All it is hustle and grind. If you can hustle and grind for 14 hours, you can be a great PA and keep your mind straight, keep your eye on the prize. And a lot of these guys were like, yeah, let's do it. And they're not afraid of 3 o'clock in the morning, be at work.
Right.
They're not afraid of got to sit here for an hour and wait for that. They don't, that's nothing to them.
Right. They were living in the desert, in the dirt, sitting there for 24 hours a day. This is nothing.
We were out a couple of weeks ago, 110 degrees out in Lancaster, California. And my guy, who was one of my set vets, Richard, he said to me, he's like, you look hot. I was like, yeah, I'm hot, man. He said, this isn't hot. This is not hot. Probably 132, I was like, but they love it.
Right.
And so what I'm trying to do now is build it in Los Angeles and as a proof of concept. But then the reality is that you got veterans returning to the Atlanta area,
right,
New York area, Texas, Louisiana, Chicago, and all of those places, the cities I just mentioned, they're all film hubs.
Right.
They all have vibrant film communities. So it could happen in all those places as well.
So, go ahead.
I was going to say, so it sounds like an amazing program that you're offering. And how many vets have you actually been able to, I guess, go through the program and then hear from and see where they're going now?
We've done about 11 so far. And one got sick and didn't finish the program, so we've done 10. And I'd say 6 of the 10 are working on their own, without my help. You know what I mean? And the thing is that's the thing. It's the whole thing about the film community is you have to know somebody. It's not that it's brain surgery, but you have to know somebody, because I didn't know how to get into it. Somebody has to introduce you into the game. So that's what I'm providing is if I can show you not just how to be a PA, but how to be a ninja PA, impress everyone when you walk on set, and people are like, "Who's that guy? Who's that woman?" I told them how to show up on a day of work like that. Their names go around like wildfire because everyone wants a good PA. It's the cheapest position to fill on a film set, but it's the hardest to find good, consistent talent.
That they're the grunt, so they're really what's making everything happen in the background.
They are
moving everything around, making everything happen. And okay, so that makes total sense.
And it makes me so proud. People come to me on the crew and they go like, "Who's that guy?"
Right. One of my guys.
How long has he been doing this? And I'm like, this is his 3rd hour. They're like, "Oh my God, can I borrow him? Can I borrow him? Can I borrow that guy?" I'm like, yeah.
So how's the support been from the film community then?
It's been really good.
I know that's tough.
It's tough because I'm still on the grind myself. I'm still a working AD. I can't just sit around and just do this. So it's hard for me to find the balance. I'm trying to get additional people to help me with the administrative aspect of it. But the film community, I think like everyone, they have great intentions. But if you're not there to say, well, where's the check? Or where's the job? Or where's the this? People sort of they mean well, but they don't necessarily follow through all the time unless you follow through and help them follow through. So that's difficult. And I have, but the thing is, once these guys get in, some of my guys I can't even hire anymore because they're not available. It's impossible to find.
That's good. That's what you want.
Yeah, that's what you want to have happen. So I want to do another class. I'm going to try and do another class this fall. It doesn't cost a lot to do it, but it does cost something. I'm going to do another class this fall, and then I just want to do 2 to 3 classes a year because basically it takes, if I get 10 people in the fall, it takes about 6 months for them to just get enough traction where they're just, I've gone through all 10 and they're just out there, out of the nest, flying free.
Right.
and then I can mix another 10, in the spring,
And all the while, the name is building and people learning that,
Yeah.
these guys are at a set vets and they're awesome.
Right, yeah. And it's funny because I initially, because I'm not in the military, never served. I was like, they're not making it all militaristic and making the program all militaristic. And a lot of the guys were like, yeah, done with that.
Right.
Did that.
That's right.
Did that,
and they're
brother.
not trying to
Right.
go back either.
Don't need to really make it all that.
Right.
I'm trying to move on. So I still use the name, but I don't beat it over the head with the fact that they're military. And a matter of fact, a lot of times I bring my sets and I don't tell people at first.
Right.
And then they're like, who's that dude? I'm like, yeah. Or they'll hear about the program. I'm like, yeah, that guy is one. No,
Okay.
he's one of our guys. They love it.
I do have one question for you.
Sure.
Because I know the show is only 60 minutes.
Oh, we can.
Right. And I know we can go on for days.
Yeah.
So, since we have, I guess I'm looking for the abridged version from you, Dave. So I'm putting you on the spot. Okay?
Sure.
You ready for this, right?
I'm ready.
You ready, Doc?
Here it goes.
Okay.
It's going to be something good. I can
Okay.
feel this coming.
So, I've never served in the military.
Yeah.
But I'm interested in getting into the business.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to be a PA.
Mm-hmm.
I want to be an assistant director. Give me the abridged version. What do I need to do?
Be a PA. Sorry.
You still have to start at the bottom.
I'm just telling you, there's no way. Put like this, to get into my union, right? You need to get into my union as my assistant.
Mm-hmm.
You have to have 600 days of PA.
Okay.
To get into my union. Right?
Almost like an apprenticeship.
Well, it's not.
It is an apprenticeship.
I have people that I work with, and they're like, they need to make that more. That's not enough.
Right.
It's not enough. Or actually, 600 days is enough to be a second AD. But then once you're a second AD, which is my assistant, you only need to do 150 days to qualify as a first. And people are like, that's insane. Right. Because basically my job is I'm the assistant coach.
Mm-hmm.
You got Belichick sitting there, but he knows some of the minutia, but not all the minutia.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
I'm the assistant coach who has to deal with all the minutia of everything. And I'm everyone's assistant. I'm the director's assistant on paper, but I'm the makeup artist assistant. I'm the caterer's assistant. I'm the actor's assistant. I'm everyone's assistant.
Okay.
And so there's no way that you could ever get that knowledge unless you are on set in some capacity. For instance, I didn't go through the second AD route.
Okay.
I was an electrician. Okay. I was a PA, then I gripped, then I was an electrician. So I was on sets, around camera, and on sets every day.
Mhm.
I just wasn't in the production aspect of it. So when I made the transition to being an AD, I used my knowledge of, okay, the DP is trying to do this, talk to the key grip. I heard that conversation. That's going to be 20 minutes. That's going to be half an hour. Okay, and so I use that to sort of lean on as I learn the other aspect of the game.
Okay.
But you'd have to be on set for years to be an AD.
So is it safe to say 1,300 hours I can become an AD?
1,300 hours? Well, I'm talking about days.
Days?
1,300 days.
Days. Not hours.
I'm not saying that
You are really trying to
I'm
do
not
the quick
saying-
route.
Yeah, I'm telling you, I'm trying to fast track it.
I'm talking about
happening.
a production with over a crew of over 20 people.
Okay.
And a budget.
If you were going to do something and it was just like a camera, a host, and 3 people,
Mhm.
yeah, you could be an AD
Okay.
if you knew the basics. But it's hard you could never step onto a set if somebody hired you to do something else. It would be
Next week,
Yeah.
I officially become the AD here. I just want to let you guys know.
Okay. Well, I'm the D.
Yes,
I'm
you
also
are.
the sound engineer.
Right,
I'm
yes.
The assistant sound engineer. We have Brian for sound engineering.
Mhm, mhm.
And I'm the main host.
Yes,
There you go.
yes.
The talent. No,
She's-
that's called the
Your
talent.
talent.
You're the
She's
talent.
the brains of the
we
operation.
call you first team. That's what we call you. Bring in first team.
Here we go. Can't get any better.
Do you have any stories of your set of guys that you'd be willing to share or able to share?
Yeah, I do have one. So one of the things that we it's not just about the mechanics of the job. It's also about the politics of the job.
Okay.
Right. And I always say to people, I'm providing a service, but it's also I'm providing a brand.
Mhm.
I'm creating a brand.
Right.
That's like everybody does, right?
Mhm.
So I tell them, you got to be humble. You got to be willing to just eat crow. Somebody's going to be what's the correct term without being offensive? A not nice person.
Yes.
If someone's being a not nice person on set, you have to choose your battles wisely. You can't go out there. So he was on a job that I wasn't on, and this guy was a combat veteran, right?
Okay.
And he was on a job that I wasn't on. He called me on the phone. He was like, "Hey, he's, I wanted to talk to you. I had a little problem the other day on set." I was like, "What happened?" He said, "Well, I was on set, and the second AD, they wanted to change the actress's wardrobe. They wanted to put her in a different shirt. They wanted a red shirt, and she had on a blue shirt. So they told me to go back to base camp. And when you're on location, sometimes it could be a 3-minute drive to base camp, to the trailers. Go back and get the other shirt." So we have Teamsters who drive the vans, and that's their gig in their union. So he jumped in a van with the Teamster, went back to base camp, got the shirt, and the Teamster went to the restroom or something. When the Teamster came back, he said, "I got to go back to set. They're waiting for this." And the Teamster was like, "Well, I'm not going to set. I'm going to crew parking." He says, "No, but they're waiting for this. They're not shooting because they need this." Right. And the guy was like, "Don't tell me how to do just some old veteran, I'm not even going to put age on him, but just not a nice guy.
Weathered.
And went off on him. Went off.
Really?
"You don't tell me how to do my bleep job, my bleep, bleep, bleep,
Right.
Well, who are you? Blah, 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 blah." And he just said, "Look, sir, you don't need to speak to me like that. You don't need to curse at me like that." And there were other people there witnessing this,
Okay.
And the guy, continued to give him a hard time, finally brought him back to set. I think he went to crew parking first and then brought him back to set. So the second AD was like, "What took you so long?" And he said, "I had a problem." He told the second AD on that job.
Right.
And the second AD knew his background, and he was like, I guess he probably went to the guy, the driver, and told him, like, "This guy's a veteran.
Right.
He served 3 tours. He blah, 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 blah. And you had no right to speak to him that way." So the next day, the guy was like, "I just wanted to apologize for."
Okay.
So I said, "No, you did the right thing."
Totally.
I was like, "What? You had nothing to be sorry for. That's exactly what I would have wanted you to do. You did the right thing. You didn't overreact. You asked the man not to speak to you that way. You moved on with it. We're not saving lives making a film. We can't take it that seriously.
Right.
You can't let it get that crazy." That's one. Another one is just like I had a guy. It made me really happy. He called me up. One of the first guys that we taught. And he called me up and he was like, "Hey, can I put you down as a reference? I'm getting my first apartment since I got out of the site." Because some of these guys aren't even they're living in transitional housing that the VA provides, And that just made me feel like I was, I was doing something for that dude that meant something. And, he called, we've had conversations, me and that dude, where he'll have breakdowns sometimes. And I'm not a therapist, you know what I mean? I'm not a trained therapist. I'll be the first to tell him. But I'll talk to him as an older person or as a more experienced person in some ways. And he really appreciates it. And I appreciate it. It's great. I love the film industry. And the one drawback I've had in the last 30 years has been, this is great, but I'm just selling cars. I'm just selling beer. I'm just selling sneakers. I mean, I've done the occasional movie, but even that, okay, I'm making a movie. It's like I want to do something that means something to the society the community that I live in. You know what I mean? And this just came out of it wasn't even like a brainstorm. That it was like a duh. Of course we should be doing this. And it really has let me feel like I'm contributing to somebody's life other than my children.
You are. You totally are.
And you.
I was gonna say, but just in general, like even anytime you get a chance to give back, that is your way of contributing to society. It might not be as grand as you would want it to be, but you're making an impact even with the numbers that you're dealing with, and that's major.
I just did a commercial last week in LA for Subaru, and they were dealing with the charities they deal with, and we had some people from Meals with Wheels, and I didn't really know that much about. I've heard of it, but I didn't know. But I met like 6 people who were clients and or delivery people for Meals with Wheels, and by the end of the day, I was like, "I'm signing up, guys. When I get back to LA, I'm signing up," because what an easy, low impact way to affect, have an effect on someone else's life.
Absolutely. So, Dave, is there a way, or how can our listeners or anyone get in contact with you or the organization?
They could email setvets.film@gmail.com.
Okay.
That's SETS.film@gmail, or Twitter @setvets.
Okay, very good. You have no idea how much of a pleasure it was to have you over here.
Oh, it's a pleasure for me
to
too.
host you.
This has been it's been great. And I love sharing about the project. So thank you.
You do. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
We got a proud brother over here.
Absolutely.
Yes, indeed.
Absolutely.
We support each other.
Yeah, all the time.
That is good. So, did you guys hear something's happening tomorrow?
Oh,
Yes,
yeah.
the solar eclipse.
A 38-year wait. And that was our discussion with Mr. David Dean. Want to definitely thank you guys. Do want to, let's see, pull this down. This is the picture we took after the day at WGBB. And I do want to close with the SETVETS program objective is to add 25 to 30 veterans annually to the SETVET roster. In order to accomplish this, they plan to recruit 12 to 36 veterans each year to participate in the program. The heart of the program is the orientation, which is a 3-day workshop. This 3 days introduces participants to the rigor of working on an actual set and also gives the instructors the opportunity to observe participants' strengths, weaknesses, and attitude. The plan is to produce 1 to 3 orientations annually. An orientation costs $9,000 to $10,000 to produce, typically 40% in kind donations and 60% in cash. This is based on the continued generosity of the film community. Currently, there are about 10 candidates vetted for the next orientation. As I mentioned before, I want to thank Mr. David Dean, the founder of SETVETS. And David has worked on over 1,000 projects and 30 years in the film industry. You know, as we stated in the interview, as a production assistant, and he has worked his way through his occupations with first assistant director, and above. He's worked in 20 different countries among a lot of award-winning directors. So a lot of great things on this program. Nazim, how you doing? Helga, how you doing? And Frida, how are you doing? The interview has come to an end, but I definitely want to thank you guys for jumping in here. I'll put the picture back up here. And we are calling it a wrap. So if you joined later on, if you get a chance to listen to this interview, it is about 30 minutes. But the setvets.org is the organization. I want to thank you guys. God bless, and we'll speak with you later.